Welcome everyone back to the Franchise Growth Show, the show where we talk with founders who are not just chasing scale, but chasing transferable value. And today we are talking to someone who's building a fast scaling franchise in one of the most overlooked markets in home services, siding. Alex is the CEO of Ideal Siding, North America's fastest growing siding company. In just a few years, he's gone from an idea to over 50 locations, all without warehouses, heavy infrastructure, or legacy baggage. So if you're a franchise buyer, operator, or growth stage founder looking for a playbook that actually scales, you want to hear this. First and foremost, Alex, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, Joe. Yeah, it's great to have to talk to you on this podcast.
Absolutely. So let's go back a little bit, if you don't mind. Take us back to the beginning. What problem did you first see that led you to ultimately launching Ideal Siding?
I was listening to Charlie Munger's interview, and he said, if you still have time in your life to tackle some big problem and you have, 10 years to spend on something or 20 years to spend on something, pick a big problem. And I was thinking about, what big problem do I know that exists in my life? And at that time I had a lead generation company that was supplying leads to a lot of siding companies. We probably had more leads than any other siding company in the industry. I knew a lot of owners of siding companies. I knew the market quite well. And I thought, well, the way I see this business is kind of obvious to me how it should be run. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it will not work. So I was thinking about it for a couple of years, and then one of my mentors told me, listen, you are in this industry, you understand it well. There are not that many people in the United States that know what you know and the skill set that you have. So you must do it. You don't have a choice. It is just, it is what it is. And I tested it with one location in Vancouver. And then we opened, and everyone said, yeah, of course Vancouver would work, but what about other places? So we tested it in Nanaimo, which is a small town, 200,000 population. It worked. Then we tested in Calgary, which was very devastated with the low oil prices. It worked. Then we tested Toronto, which is all brick, and everyone said, yeah, it will not work in Toronto, 100%. There are no people who are doing siding in Toronto. But I already was selling leads in Toronto, so I knew that there is demand. And the first year we launched in Toronto, we had over 1,000 requests, over 1,000 leads in the next 12 months. So the whole concept of, it would not work, we proved them wrong. And after that, we started franchising. After that, we realized that our model is actually is a working model for all of those different markets, and we started franchising one by one. We opened 12 franchises in Canada first, and then after 2 years, once we upgraded the systems, upgraded the team structure, support team, then we started franchising in States. And also in States, first what I've done, I drove to Seattle and opened my own location to see we did well in Vancouver, would it work in Seattle? And we realized that Seattle is a much more competitive market. A lot of things are done a different way, but overall, it's not that much different that it would not work. So I wanted to be this guinea pig myself to see what can we do better and how it works. And then we started franchising in States. That's kind of very, very slowly. I think we launched 4 or 5 locations first year, after already having 12 in Canada, then another probably 10 or 12 next year. We're growth, even though we started franchising end of 2022 in States, so it's 3 years ago. We have 93 locations now, but we actually did everything slow, at least in my mind. We were not overstretched with any support or anything. It was always planned, kind of training 2 franchisees at a time, launching them, supporting them, the next 2 franchisees, and kind of step by step.
I love that. You tested demand before you launched full scale. You recognized some early signals that told you could franchise this. And then you really put yourself and your mouth where your money is, right? You went to Seattle and you proved the concept, not just in Canada, but in the US. And then as you did begin to scale into franchising, doing it on a slow pace where you can support those early franchisees to success is just phenomenal. So like kudos and congrats to the way and the methodology that you did it, and certainly to the growth trajectory that you have up until this point. That's amazing. You are in a pretty big market. I think it's like $60 billion or something like that market with pretty low franchise saturation. So why siding? Why is that such a strong category for new operators?
This is the question I had for all those years that I was contemplating. I was trying to find anyone with a franchise in their title, whatever they are, bank lenders in franchising or franchise consultants or franchisors, franchisees, and I was asking them the same question: why is nobody doing this? And I've heard a lot of good reasons, and not a single person told me that it actually might work. And then I got introduction from another person to another person to another person, and then there was one person that said, under those two conditions, it might work. Tell me how you're solving those two. First one is, how do you keep franchisees interested in paying your royalties after the training and after they're already running everything? What value do you provide after that? Great question. Everyone who wants to start a franchise, start with this question. Question number two was, how do you get coachable people in construction to be your franchisees? Great question, right? Not obvious one.
Both of those are both great questions.
I only realized that she know what she was talking about long after, but she was VP of CertaPro. Okay. When I was talking to her, she already had her own other businesses and things like this, but before that in her career, she was VP of CertaPro. And CertaPro grew to 700 million in sales as a painting franchise, right? Painting is not as complex as siding, but it's still a complex business. You deal with this customers, same kind of homeowners, customers, commercial, residential. It's kind of similar, right? In a way. Siding is definitely more complex. There are more products, there are more options, things like this. But I thought, if CertaPro was successful at this, why wouldn't we be successful? And there were a couple of more events in my life before that kind of led me to this path. One was that I was director at church, and one of our guys in church, he stopped tithing, and I was new to being director of church, so I went to him and said, hey man, why did you stop tithing? And he said, I just have really terrible financial situation. I am a siding installer. I was paid $4 a square foot, and the owner of the company just came to us and said he'll be paying $2 from next to, like, it happened like a month ago before I talked to him. So de facto, my salary was cut in half, and I took it as a really good reason to take care of family first. Asked me, how can I help? And my background is marketing, digital marketing. I have a degree in computer science and finance, so I'm first of all, I'm a digital marketing person. So what I told him is that, let me do some research and see if I can help you to get clients that will be paying you more. So I started calling siding companies, and one siding company told that we are charging $22 a square foot. And I was like, all right, he gets to 22. Materials probably are very expensive, because coming from Europe, it's very common that materials are like 60-70% of revenue, and labor is cheap. So that was my understanding. So I called suppliers. Of course, they didn't tell me price per square foot. They told me like, oh, the box, this, or square. They were talking language that I didn't understand. It took some time for me to get them, what's cost of one board? What's the size of one board? How much this board covers? So I did my calculations like, okay, it's $2 per square foot materials. $2 materials, $2 labor, they're charging $22. Sounds like a great business. So I came to him and said, to this friend, and said, listen, I can find clients directly and they'll be coming to you, and you can charge $4 instead of $2. Or actually whatever amount you want. And he said, this, like, nobody knows you. This is not how it works. You will not get anyone. And I told him, well, we had different verticals at that time for marketing. So siding was just one of the verticals for me that I would just start. And we had the first client in 2 weeks since I talked to him. And I called him and said, let's go. Let's meet a client. He ended up pointing me to his kind of leader of the crew, the guy that has his own LLC, and he was more experienced. So I took his leader of the crew where my friend was working with, and with this leader of the crew, we went there. He didn't speak any English, so I was just working as a translator, but I didn't know what Cream is, what software is. I didn't know anything about siding at all in terms of products. So that was pretty weird meeting, but we gave him price, and he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And then he said, "Do you guys want to come in for tea, discuss, maybe styles of siding and everything?" And so we went home. We gave him price around $9 a square foot. We kind of calculated that will be a really good price. And he, poured us tea and said, I like you guys. You look professional, because this crew chief, he was like all the best, all the equipment, big truck, and I was just smiling and being nice and talking to him. So he liked this combination, and he said, "The only thing I'm concerned about is that you're half price of everyone else." And I told him, "What if we don't take deposit from you?" And he's like, "Then you got a deal." So this is how we started having no deposit policy in our company. Second event that happened was there was a local company in Vancouver that took $2.5 million of deposits from clients and closed the door. And the rumors were that the owners of the company bought 2 brand new homes and 2 brand new cars, and through bankruptcy, you are not allowed to take it from them. So they just, that was the situation. And I was thinking about those homeowners that there was very little way for them to get this money back. So I thought, maybe it's just Vancouver. And then I started doing research about different cities in the US, and I realized that that's happening everywhere. I'll give you an example now. A few weeks ago, the company that was doing close to 400 million doing roofing and siding went bankrupt. They had multiple locations. The company was called Renovo. What happened to all those people that were doing all those projects, all those homeowners?
SOL, probably.
So yeah, so there those were kind of main reasons that led me to see, what if I can build a reliable brand and give an option to homeowners to have this reliable, well-known company that if there's something going on that they don't like, they can always escalate, they can always call, the 100 number and get it addressed. So that was the idea. And my goal after Charlie Mangar's interview was 100 million. I'm only building it if it's going over 100 million. Because before that, I had a publishing company. We had 140 people working for us. So I already wanted to build an even bigger business. So I wanted to have 100 million. That was my big heritage goal.
I love it. Yeah, so I've talked with a bunch of people that have created franchise brands or founders of franchise brands, but most of them, if I'm honest, need something. They need warehouses, they need inventory, they need a storefront, they need something in order to execute, right? But you didn't. So walk us through how that business actually works and what the day in the life of a franchisee looks like.
This is a great question, because when I was selling leads to siding companies, of course I wanted to sell more. Right? And I was coaching them and helping them how to grow and scale a business. And what I've noticed that the companies that reach the between 5 and 10 million range, they go bankrupt, or they lose a lot of revenue. The way it works is they build up overhead. They're like, "Oh, we are a great company. We'll do company cars. Then we will do warehouse. Then we'll do a showroom. Then we'll put some nice equipment in the showroom." Typically start breaking at the point where they say, "Now we need a marketing department. Now we want our marketing person." Or we hire agency, and then agency comes in and says, "You need to use the software. It will cost you 50,000 for the software, and it will cost you this and this and this. And then you need to have a proper CRM." That was, right now I think the problem with all the tech stack is not as big as when I was starting, but you still have a lot of expensive people that you hire when you're going from this 2 million to 10 million mark, or at least know exactly how to work with those different vendors. And what happens is those companies get a lot of overhead. They want to pay their people well, which is great, but what happens is their nets start dropping. When their nets start dropping, their shareholders look at it as like, no, we're established great company, we need to charge more. So they raise pricing. They lose market share. They lose market share, the top salespeople leave. The top salespeople leave, that's the end of the company. And it was a cycle that I've experienced a few times, and I was like, how do I fix it? So this is where I came up with this idea of how we can scale down to bare minimum life, family expenses of franchisee, that we can turn off marketing completely. There are no employees. There's no warehouse, no equipment, no loans. It's your mortgage payments, your food on table. If we hit another COVID lockdown or whatever, earthquake happens, war happens, whatever it is, we can scale down to bare minimum where you are not losing money every month. Because the guys that I was talking with when I was starting, they had multiple Anytime Fitnesses. And during 2020, this is where we were starting to franchise our Canadian side. They told me, oh, we are losing 15,000 every month in every gym on rent. And we let go every single person. Government will help with this somehow, but we cannot not pay rent. And I was like, and I kind of multiplied the number of gyms they have and every month, and it was you don't even know when it will stop. But again, you're losing revenue, you're losing equity, you're losing your P&L. You're losing all the people that work for you that just started working somewhere else, and you're also losing 15,000 a month. And I was thinking, how do we build it the way that we can scale down, but we can scale up? We can scale to over 2 million in revenue within 4 months. So within 4 months, you would have a team that is capable of doing 2 million a year. And that was our idea on how to do it. And if you have multiple locations, you just multiply those teams. So it's I could probably talk about it for hours, but because I saw that there is this catch in home services between 4 and 8 million that companies struggle to go through, I was looking at how do we build it to scale to that size without losing momentum. And this is where actually franchising works really well. We can centralize a lot of those expensive things, and then locally you don't have admin person, you don't have an office, because you don't need to.
Exactly, you don't need to. And there are so many correlations and crossovers in what you just said, and literally the clients that I talk to every single day, vast majority of them are stuck in exactly what you're talking about, 2 to 10 million. They have a certain set of problems that they can't just seem to get over because either they've overcompensated or they've undercompensated somewhere. And what I try to get them to realize is you have this set of problems right now. But if we're able to get through those and you get your revenue to 15 million, you're going to have this new set of problems. Do you want to call me again in 9 months, or do you want to go ahead and fix those also? And so you do have to kind of be able to scale up, scale down, to your point, and be able to go down to bare minimum if COVID happens or something else, but then be able to scale up quickly. And the fact that you're doing it through duplication and multiplication of people across territories or locations is like genius. So again, kudos to you. That it's literally what I talk about every single day. So we got a lot of synergy going on here. That's amazing. When it comes to the franchise space, especially in America, I know it's fairly well regulated. There's some stuff that we can share pre-NDA, and there's some stuff we have to wait until after that thing is signed, right? So without getting into NDA requirements and that kind of stuff, can you give our listeners just like a broad range of what a typical investment would be if they wanted to look into your franchise, what kind of revenue lift that they're looking at in maybe year one or something to that, just to give them some framework?
So the typical investment that includes working capital is somewhere between 75 and 125,000. So we are on this low end of franchising. I'm usually saying that the only franchise that is less expensive for all-in, not just franchise fee, but all-in investment, is probably commercial cleaning when you're not master franchisee, but the regular franchisee when you clean yourself. If you don't want to clean yourself, we are next best thing in terms of if you go on the list from least expensive to most expensive. But which brought us a lot of candidates, of course, but we are very, very, very selective on who we choose because our owner's discretionary profit is 232,000. And a lot of those people are in first year. Like we don't have, $30 million company that we add to our averages and our averages goes up. Like those are guys who just started, or my companies that just started. And I have shares in 5 locations. So, but we are in the same boat. We just started. We are in this first years of business. And maybe we're lacking some of the experience of 20 years, but we're actually hired those people that have experience. And we're now at the forefront of the industry. We're changing things without being stuck with old principles and old tools. So this is kind of the bot part. First FDD we did in States, I put break even after X month. And then registration states said, no, you cannot have it in the FDD. So because that, if you think about our numbers, you can do the math.
Yeah,
But
it's pretty quick.
yeah, for our revenue, again, mostly for a big part, chunk of those are first year, is 950,000.
Wow. So, listeners, take note: low investment, quick break even, high ROI, and more of an executive model versus an owner operator model, which is quite literally what most people are looking for today. So, like, take notes. If you're not already, get a pencil and paper out. This is a masterclass right now. So you obviously have built a ton of systems around crew hiring, marketing, how you quote, how you make all those things repeatable when you go into a new territory, a new city with a new franchisee, right? So what's the secret to doing that? What's the secret to making something repeatable regardless of geography?
I mean, the model that we use, the marketing we use is very similar. There are some things that are different in some of the markets, and it takes, I would say it's like 20% different things and 80% are all the same. And it takes time to get a chunk of market in the market that you open. So I would say that every person who starts in your market, they just need to know that if they're in less competitive market, they will get up to speed and get a big chunk of market very fast. The problem is that they will hit the ceiling also sooner because there are just that many jobs that are happening in a smaller town like Nanaimo's 200,000 population. We have only so much renovations we can do. And then if you're in big market, competitive markets, the ceiling is far, like there are companies that are doing over 50 million in this space in some markets. So it's you can build very massive business, but to get this initial market share will take longer and will be more expensive. So the difference that we see across new markets, it all depends on how big and competitive the market is. And it's not just one better than another. You just have pros and cons. We had a conversation about what is better, to have 5 locations in low competitive environment or have one large one. I'm actually curious, what do you think, Joe?
I'm
Like
gonna go with
similar revenue.
5.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with the 5. I'm gonna go with the
Yeah.
5.
Yeah, I said the same. I want to go with the 5, the same revenue that one. Why? Because for those 5, it will be easier for me to find managers, and they don't need to be super people in a low competitive environment. In high competitive environment, my team should be a team. Otherwise, there's no chance they can win.
Yep. Lower barrier of entry and higher quality of employee that you can retain at a decent labor rate. So yeah, it makes sense. And if you do same revenue in 5 territories versus one really large one, you're likely spending a little less in marketing on that side of the equation as well, because you're not having to go against that larger level of competition. So not only is your labor less, your competition is less, and therefore your marketing is less. So it's like a win all the way across the board.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that. So you mentioned already that you have had a lot of interest in recent past of people wanting to get into your model, but that you guys are very selective in terms of what you look for and the type of individual that would be successful. So what kind of person is that? What's the type of person that thrives in your system, and ultimately, what's the opposite? Who doesn't fit?
So our average check is over 18,000. And for more mature markets, it's actually significantly higher. Some of the projects that we have are over $1 million. So we bid on expensive projects. So think about who would you trust to buy a car from, like a brand new car. So when we onboard people, our kind of qualifier is if this person would be able to sell high ticket item. Now, what helps overall is previous sales experience or previous management experience. So typically people who manage other people are more mature in terms of emotional intelligence. People with better emotional intelligence, they're actually better at closing high ticket items. So one of the questions I ask people is, how many people did you fire in your life?
Golly, I couldn't give you a number if you're asking me. Too many? Maybe that's a bad answer, but that's the honest answer.
But when we have a candidate and we ask him, how many people did you fire in your life? If it's 0, it's one case. If it's 3, this person knows how difficult it is. This person knows how everything works in terms of managing people, and it tells us a lot. So it's one of my most favorite questions, because a lot of people avoid doing this, but it just shows how responsible you are, how good you are with people. And typically letting someone go is a win-win for this person and for the company in most cases, but it's very difficult to do. So we're looking for those people that are mature in terms of EQ and or people that had sales experience that they would thrive in this environment. Some people from IT sales background or tech sales, they say, well, my deals were 300,000 average, right? So for them, if somebody is asking for a starting package for 100,000, they're like, yeah, it's only 100,000.
It's easy. Let's do this. Show me a piece of paper. Let's go.
Yeah.
I love that. I know inside of your system, you guys have a ton already, right? Because you've had a pretty substantial growth pattern. And within that, you got some owner-operators. You got some semi-absentees. What's your take on the absentee ownership inside of the home service industry?
I spend a lot of time to think about it. I actually created an index to measure how stable business will be with the absentee model, and I'll share with you later on. It's something that I was thinking about for a long time, and I talked to a lot of people about it. The only way in home services, home improvement industry to build absentee business is to build at least $5 to $6 million business, because otherwise you will not have enough resources to hire a decent management team to run your business. I'm not aware of any case in the whole industry that has specifically home service. I'm not talking about retail. I'm not talking about gyms. I'm talking about home services, home improvement. I'm not aware of any company that has absentee model below 5 million. California Closet is absentee, 7 million average. Paul Davis absentee, I think there are 6 or 7 too. Or I don't remember last. I know the biggest one was 60 million. So Serra Pro, 2 million doesn't work. Absentee. In painting business, for example, paint, roofing, whatever it is, doesn't matter actually. Only way to do it is to keep it very, very simple. Complexity kills scale. And those companies that offer all types of services, even at $5 million, they will not be absentee. Never. Because they're in GC market, in general contractor market. General contractor is absentee at 20 million. You cannot build general contractor business below 20 million that is fully absentee. And by absentee, I mean you're checking financials once a quarter and the business is still profitable and the business is still growing. It's not that it's losing money, everything is falling apart, you call it absentee. That's not absentee. Now, if we go step back and say semi-absentee, we need to define it. I would define it as 20 hours a day. 20 hours a day. Yeah, of course, 20 hours a day. 20 hours a week commitment. 20 hours a week commitment. Let's call it semi-absentee. How do we achieve it in ideal setting? Well, you need to have full-time salesperson and full-time operations to run your business. Then with 20 hours, you can help both of them, you can lead both of them. And one is taking all the appointments, another one is running all the construction jobs. You're limited in terms of how much they can execute, fine, sell and execute, but it can get you to about 1.5, 2 million, and you're 20 hours. This is how we build it and planned it. So if you look at any other businesses, again, to be 20 hours, I don't think you can do it without business doing 1.5 million. Now, how to get to this 1.5 or 2 million? Well, it actually takes a lot of work. People don't understand. When somebody builds $7 million business and they franchise it and they say, hey, do it. Going to 7 million is very easy. It's not. It's very, very, very difficult. So when we were pitching, we were like, our location is doing 1.5. We can show you how to get it to 1.5. We have no idea how to get it to 5 million. We'll show you to get it 1.5. What we can show you is how to build 3 of them with exactly the same model to 1.5 each. And we believe that we can outcompete the $5 million company with 3 that are doing 1.5 with the model that we created.
Simplicity beats complexity all day long, every day. That's one of my strongest belief systems. I also believe there's such thing, and it's John Maxwell, so I take zero credit in this, but law of the lid, like there's only so much that any individual person or any individual team can handle or utilize or leverage. So your goal as a leader is to maximize that and then go replicate it. And that's exactly what you're doing through your model. So I love this. This is like getting me excited. What is the hardest part about going from a franchise system with 5-ish locations to north of 50. There's got to be scaling pains to that, similar to a business going from 2 million to 10 million. There's scaling pains, right? So what is the scaling pains of a franchise system that goes from a lower number to north of 50?
Well, because we scale kind of fairly slowly. Again, it might seem that 3 years, 93 locations, that like crazy, but that's not like we actually did it fairly manageable. The guys that are very successful in franchising told me that the sweet spot is 15 franchisees. So 15 franchisees a year. If you launch them, this gives you enough growth, but you're not putting too much pressure on your systems and your support team. So this is where after 30 years of doing franchising, this is where they saw the sweet spot. So we tried to follow the same suit. Maybe we grew a little bit faster in some years. I think the first 5 franchisees were the most difficult. I think 5 to 50 was easier than 0 to 5.
That makes sense, because if you apply that to a business, it's very similar, right?
Yeah. Why? Because we were able to hire great people, and they helped me to build this business further. Plus, we already had 5 successful people that propelled it further. But building those 5 first successful ones, it's so difficult. It's crazy. If you talk to any franchisor who is successful, you don't understand how much effort they put into it. Effort and money and sleepless nights, and it's you need to build 5 businesses for 5 people that you just met. You need to build it, not them. They need to build it. You need to build it. Otherwise, you cannot grow from 5 to 50. You need to build it even if they don't want you to build it. Like it's kind of counterintuitive, but the more I learn about this industry, the more I see how much effort those guys put in the first 5-10 franchisees. Mm-hmm. And then I was at an event recently with Brian Scudamore, and he's doing close to $1 billion in system-wide revenue with Got Junk and Shack Shine and Wawane Painting. And he told from stage or panel where he was that going from 100 million to $1 billion was significantly less difficult than going from 0 to 1 million. And he said, I have such a great team members that they do some projects that I'm just not aware of. I show up there and they tell me about things that we did that I didn't know we did. And the company, they want to grow to 5 billion now. So his point of view was that this 0 to 1 is impossible. 1 to 10 is extremely difficult. 10 to 100 is very difficult. 100 to 1 billion, if your business model allows to get there, is actually easier.
That makes total sense. Speaking from someone who's built companies, I 100% agree with that. The first million or two is the most difficult million or two that you will ever get to. And then by the time you get there, almost intangibly, you have systems, people, documentation, playbooks that are replicatable, that then you can hit a little bit of a fast forward button. It's very true in the franchise system. So this is great. You got extra time? Because I think we should go long on this episode.
Sure. Yeah.
Because I think you're just giving an awful lot of nuggets that our audience is going to really want to dive in further into. As you continue to scale your brand, like you're approaching, the century mark, right? How do you protect culture in scaling that fast?
Yeah, it's the most important question. And I think it starts with support center. So all the people that we have in our office we have internal marketing, HR, finance, call center, design, like a lot of different departments. Having people that breathe this culture that we wanted to build from day one, that's what led us to bring franchisees that are accepting this culture. So it was, and again, I would not define that we grew fast. We were accepting 2% of all applicants to buy our franchise. We would accept.
That's awesome.
Out of 100 applicants, we would accept 2 people.
That's amazing.
And now we have even lower because a lot of people applying in the markets that we already sold. So just because we cannot, not because they're bad candidates, but because we cannot sell them anything in that market, now this percentage goes even lower, acceptance rate. We were very, very careful about who we want to get on board because we want to be number one signing company in every market. So our parameter was would you be able to, or do you want actually, or do you have capacity, skill set to build this leading company in the market or not? And our first franchisee was ex-CEO of one company that was owned by Amazon. He's Harvard MBA graduate, very smart guy, was CEO for a long time with different companies. He was our first franchisee. After having him, and again, he just applied. When he filled out the application, I thought it's a joke, that somebody's making fun of us. Then I called him, and it was like, no, because he put how much salary he made, and I was like, I don't understand, like, it must be a joke. So he was our first franchisee, and after he joined, we thought, if we get franchisees who are not as good, how would we keep the bar that high? So he kind of set the bar so high that we just were forced to follow it. And I don't know how it happened, to be honest with you. It just happened. But half of our franchisees are MBA, the other half are some type of business experience, and if they're neither of those two, they have something else that is very unique in terms of character, in terms of skill set. But we want to dive in more into multi-unit renovations where the projects are, like, our largest project is 3.7 million. One project, like, seemed crazy to me. And I talked to Surf Pro, and they said our largest project was 100 million. I was like, all right, we have room to grow.
Yep. All right, you know where the bar should be now, right? You got to raise that up a little bit.
Yeah, he shattered my ceiling like in one sentence.
That's a good shatter, though. You learn that there's always room for growth. So that's
exactly. He helped me to remove some of my limiting beliefs.
I love it. We could keep talking for hours. There's so many correlations between what you're doing and your business to some of the past experience that I have, specifically in landscaping. There's an awful lot of correlations and connections that can be made there. We could go on for hours, and maybe we should, but for the sake of the audience, because I know a good chunk of the people that listen into this are people that are interested in becoming an entrepreneur, and navigating a franchise is a good option for them. The opposite end is also true in terms of the audience, where there are people who already have a somewhat successful business today and are trying to determine if they should turn that business into a franchise. So if we could just pivot slightly to more like a founder reflection type moment to help that type of or that portion of the audience. If you don't mind sharing, looking back, what's one decision that you made early on that helped change everything for you in your career and everything you've been able to accomplish since then?
I think one thing that helped us the most was to surround ourselves with the really good consultants and team members. And again, it took a lot of risk taking to pay people that with money that you don't have yet. So I was all in on this. I took a lot of my savings. I borrowed money from my parents. I took on an investor early on, and it still wasn't enough. I didn't know that building franchisor right now is over $2 million. You need $2 million to build a successful franchisor. Whoever tells you otherwise didn't build franchisor, or they did it in the 80s. But right now it's so difficult, and most of it goes into salaries of people that are supporting your franchisees. Yep. It's so important. Without it, you will not build franchisor. So one of the things that I would, as an advice that I would give myself before I started, is that your reason to build franchisor shouldn't be monetary, shouldn't be money, because this is the extremely difficult business to be a franchisor. If the person does it just to make money, they will fail. It applies to many other businesses, but franchisor specifically. It's a very personal business. If you have only one or two things go wrong, the whole thing collapses. It's a leveraged business. As a franchisor, if things go well, they go really well. If things don't go well, they don't go well very fast. Yeah. So you need to have your why should be much beyond any funds. Like when I was thinking about building a business, I was thinking I don't want homeowners to be left 20,000 deposit that they gave to a company, the company disappeared. On a small scale, on a bigger scale, I wanted to make sure that homeowners actually can rely on the company, that it will be done, and it will be done on time, and it will be done well. This company didn't exist and still doesn't exist. Our largest competitors charge twice what we charge, and their warranty is 25 times worse than ours.
Wow.
Like, this is how bad it is. And this is the most expensive piece of renovation. So I had a very, like, again, and there are a few other personal reasons that I can, share some other time, but I had a very, very strong personal why I would do it. Even if I don't make any money, like, even if at the end of it, I don't make any money, I still did it for reasons that I believed are good reasons. On the other side, when you're buying franchise, there are so many different options that you just need to, again, surround yourself with smart people. You need to sit down with someone who has exposure to multiple brands that had business before and talk to them, because it's a very serious decision in your life. You investing big chunk of your savings, and sometimes in some cases you have SBA with your house as a collateral, and now your primary residence is on the line with your kids living there. So it is very, very stressful once you understand that you picked the wrong franchise. So you need to work with someone who knows how to pick a good franchise. Otherwise, you're risking a lot. It's Franchising is also usually like starting business. What was, I think, difference from starting business versus a job is it's also leveraged. If your franchise goes well, you scale it further. You build either a great stream of dividends, or you build equity that you can sell for a very good amount of money. And if it doesn't go well, you might lose a lot of your savings that you have, and a lot of time, and a lot of stress, and a lot of health, like a lot of things. So picking the right franchise is very, very, very important. I don't know what else. Like, I can go into details, but this is like overall concept.
No, I've literally said almost those exact words to clients before that, I got whatever, $150,000, tell me the best business that I should invest in. Well, there's an awful lot to answer that question. Like, we need to kind of slow down. Or, I've got a $2.5 million business and I want to make it a franchise. Well, that's awesome, but there's a little bit more to it than that. And so, like, we've quite literally are simpatico when it comes to those two answers. So thank you for sharing that, because it doubles down on things that I've said in the past and my belief system as well. That's why I created the company I have today. It's not because it makes me money or anything like that. That's a benefit. That's not the why. The why is I want to help others. And it sounds like you did this for the exact same reason. So yet another reason we have cross-pollination going on between the two of us. I love this. Alex, this was fire, dude. This was probably one of my most exciting and favorite episodes that we've ever done on this show. So thank you, first and foremost, for taking time and going a little over on time as well for myself and for our audience. I sincerely appreciate it, sir.
Thank you, Joe. Let's do more episodes on different topics. I really admire what you have achieved in your life with business. And you're not just an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur, it's a different kind of type of people. Not many people start other businesses after they exit business. And I really appreciate what you're doing with this podcast and overall with helping people getting into business and achieving their big audacious goals. So thank you for that. And I definitely know that we have a lot of other topics we can just focus on and later on and take them one by
100%. We're going to do it. We're going to, audience, if you like this episode, you want to hear the next iteration, stay tuned. We're going to get it on the calendar between him and I, and we are going to dive deep into several of these concepts because I think it's going to be substantially beneficial for you all. Here's what I'm taking away from this episode. You don't need a warehouse to scale a service business. You need systems. You don't necessarily, in fact, you probably don't need big markets, because big markets don't always mean great scale. They mean big competition. So you want to enter the right model. And finally, hustle doesn't necessarily equal scale. It helps, but it doesn't equal. Repeatability does. So if you want to know if this particular franchise fits your goals, DM me the word siding and I will send you Alex's 2-minute drill on the ideal siding franchise guide, and we will talk through if this model fits you and, more importantly, if you fit them. So let's get out there and let's build something worth owning. Thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate you all.